everyday media, and we're hearing more about it, and we're learning that it's a lot more present than we thought, but also just so much overwhelm with always being digitally connected, being judged, sort of on all these different platforms, just comparing your life all of the time. It's bringing a lot more stress to people, and it's time to take back some time for you.
So how do you feel then about, taking this time that people take for self-care,
mm-hmm.
and the fact that it's become so big online that it's almost like a whole industry, another whole area of the self-development industry,
mm-hmm.
And then they go and post back to, like, they've taken the time for themselves and then
mm-hmm.
they've shared it with the world. And because we're seeing a lot of that, because there's a lot of self-care challenges, which is great because it's encouraging people to do something every single day, but then they're bringing it back to the world. Is that inspiring for others, or is it contradictory to the self-care practice? Like, how do you see that?
Yeah, look, I think, as you said, anything that encourages people to take care of themselves is great. There's obviously going to be, anytime we see these types of words, and we've talked a little bit about this with self-care and mindfulness and those types of things, there's going to be industries, there's going to be people jumping on that. It's going to be, if they can make it commercial, then they will. So, there's pros and cons, I guess, for it. There's, there's the awareness. And I think if you're sharing it and you genuinely have a moment, and you want to take a picture and you want to share it with your social network, that comes from a good place. I think if you feel like you've got to set up a bath and you've got to put flowers in it and you've got to light all the candles and you've got to make it Instagram worthy, like, I think that takes away from the actual point of what you're doing. If it just happens to be that you're outside somewhere and you've gone to a beautiful retreat, there's a pool and a bathtub on the balcony, and you're like, oh no, I got to get a photo of this and I want to share it. You're inspired, you've got joy from that. But I think that's kind of, the difference too. It's just having a look at your motivations for why you're doing that and why you're sharing it. And, I definitely, for myself, like I get to do lots of travel, I get lots of amazing experiences, but a lot of them now I keep for myself, for my own memories, because it wasn't about making sure that everybody knew that I got to do something amazing. It was more, I wanted to have a photo of it so that I would remember that I did that. Even now, my husband and I, we share a lot of our photos on Facebook. We only share them with ourselves, so we'll get reminded a year later of that great, awesome thing that we did, but without kind of putting it out there for everyone else to feel, like they have to see what we're doing, because we live a very different lifestyle as well. So, it can be, my friends are sick of seeing our photos from traveling, but we don't want to forget, we want to remember those moments of joy as well. So, yeah. Depends where your motivation comes from.
Yeah, it's so true, so true. So we've sort of discussed a bit about self-care and what it means, and the fact that it's become quite an industry and it's all over social media, and the positives and negatives with that, and a few little ideas for people to take away from this conversation about self-care. If we now move into the idea of holidays and healthy holidays, and talking about how, what I said in the beginning, that the wellness tourism is growing twice as fast as overall tourism.
Absolutely, it is.
In the past, people would see holidays as that time when you go and you completely get that permission, almost unwritten permission, to let your hair down, drink as much as you like, eat as much as you like, and and sit by the pool and read your book and do all of that as well, but just have no rules. It's your all out sort of like, I'm going on a holiday and I'm fully celebrating it.
I'm in holiday mode.
That's right. So when did this transition from that to now people actually wanting to go on healthy holidays happen? And why do you think it's happened?
So what you're talking about with traditional holidays, we sort of call those your fly and flop, So
that's great. I love it.
That's it. So you get on a plane and you go somewhere really warm and you sit by the pool and exactly what you said, do all these things. And I think the thing is, we live in a fantastic country. Australians, are very, very lucky to have lots and lots of great weather each year. We have a tendency to drink all the time. What I would say is that our lives are pretty indulgent now, and we need the holidays to pull back from that. We actually, and I guess even coming from that too, wellness holidays aren't, you have different types of holidays. You have ones where are really focused on fitness, or people are really focused on a particular skill. They might be learning to surf. It might be an activity holiday. And, we even have healthy honeymoons. And so it's really, active family holidays. There's a huge range of different types of holidays. So you can still do a little bit of relaxing. You can even have a glass of wine, but at the same time, it's more about nourishing yourself. So you're going to be getting good sleep. You're going to be eating well. The food is incredible now. It's, it's come a long way. It's not sort of, I was joking before, it's not boot camp. It's not colonics every day and green juices. And so it's indulgent for people in a different way. It's indulging them to be taking care of themselves and, coming home feeling like they had a break instead of continuing a lifestyle that they pretty much have here in Australia.
Yeah, it's so true. So what sort of, people seem to be changing their perspectives in their mindset of what they need and want for a holiday. And their needs are generally changing because we have become, people have become accustomed to accepting that busy is normal. And it's almost like, there's something wrong with me if I'm not really busy. I mustn't be productive, or I'm not doing everything I should be doing. And there's a lot of shoulds and all of these expectations on self when they're not busy. So we become a world where, unfortunately, busyness is seen as almost like, even though it's not ideal, it's like seen as as a status of being worthy.
That's right.
So people are changing their perspectives based on that because their needs are getting greater. So what are the main, like you're saying that, there's different things within the food and what's being offered, but what are the main things people are looking for with regard to wellness retreats?
Look, I mean, again, it does really vary, but for Australians, the biggest thing that we see is around stress. So lots and lots of people dealing with emotional, sort of problems. They're coming from too much stress, so they're really overwhelmed. They're at the point of burnout. One of the things with being a new industry in Australia is that most of our guests have had some sort of catalyst for why they're traveling. So a lot of them are negative. A lot are that they're at that point of burnout, or that they know someone who's got really sick, or they've got a health scare themselves. They're approaching a sort of this isn't a bad one, but a significant birth, and they stop and they realize they haven't been taking care of themselves for a long, long time. And if they don't do something, they might not be here for a long, long time, So lots of preventative health care, but just really see a lot of people going away to deal with that stress, divorce, redundancies, all these big major life changes where people stop and they realize they've just been running 1,000,000 miles an hour and trying to do all of the things, because we're not just supposed to be great in our jobs and great parents and great friends and partners, but we're also supposed to leave a legacy, and it's like there's so many things to do that you just don't give yourself permission not to be busy. You've got 5 minutes, well, you could probably be learning a language on the internet, or there's so much, or doing a course, or furthering yourself, and it's like, of course you should be doing anything that interests you, and we talked about bringing you joy, but you don't have to feel like you always have to do those things. So we see a lot of people going for getting a bit of emotional support, and then taking care of themselves. After that, the next thing that's most popular in Australia is, interestingly, people try to do detox holidays, and a lot of time we talk them out of it. And that might sound a bit contradictory, but the reason, as I said, the reason we do that is because people will feel really, really overwhelmed with, the way they've been eating and all the activities, and they think they could just hit a reset button. They can go and they can try to purge the system of everything, and then they'll be sort of in a clean slate to come back and do it all again. But often we'll try to encourage those guests to do more of a relaxation program or a revitalization program, because they're almost burnt out, but they just don't recognize it. They think that they can just hit reset for a week and then go back to living the same lifestyle, and it's like, that's also not sustainable. So,
detox.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And sometimes even want to do that, they'll sort of say, I'll book the detox, and then I'll stop off in Hong Kong on the way back. We're like, oh, I wouldn't do it that way, like I would go. And so yeah, sort of giving them that advice and understanding. But after that, stop smoking is really popular, which is awesome to see. We're seeing people going for fitness, to restart their fitness, because if you realise that you're not taking care of yourself, it can be really hard to restart in your normal life, so they'll sort of need this space, and they'll go away and they'll work with a specialist, and they'll come back with a plan that they can try to integrate into their, everyday life as well.
Yeah, interesting. So those last few are definitely like especially the exercise one is like a looking after themselves, preventative health type initiative. But it's interesting because the ones you mentioned in the beginning, although you did ban them under a preventative health, in a way they're kind of not, because in a way it's like you're seeing people only make decisions when they're burnt out, when they're overwhelmed, when they're stressed, when they're desperate, when they're in crisis, when they've seen someone close to them have a major health concern or issue, or or die even, all of those things. So they're coming still from that place of either fear or overwhelm, as opposed to going, I need to maintain and take care of myself so that I don't get to that place.
I think the beautiful thing about that is that we see people they'll go on their first retreat out of that space of, sort of discomfort, and then they will book again.
That's
because
great.
They know, that they're like, I need this every 6 or 12 months, because I need to not let myself get back to that space. I can't go there again. It was dark and I didn't realize. And now I found the sort of, the light in the wellness. And this is a big reason we talk about the self-care as well, because they're not ready to invest in themselves until they're at crisis point. Until then, everything else is more important. And then it's, it comes down to them, or we don't know where they're going from there. They'll kind of make that first decision. And we see a lot of guests will travel within sort of 8 to 12 weeks of their initial phone call, because they just need to go.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing that this has become I think it's likely to become something that's really on a lot of people's agendas and schedules on a regular basis. I mean, there's obviously a relatively high cost with taking really any holiday. There's a high cost. Yeah. So it is something that does need to be prioritised for people and sometimes planned. Yes. But the benefits...
This is right.
It's just...
Look, I mean, absolutely. And it's one of those things where you actually achieve something as well. And I think it does attract a lot of really busy people, really type A's, because they're like, okay, I'm going on a healthy holiday or a wellness holiday. I'm going to come back and be fit, or I'm going to quit smoking, or I'm going to be mentally stronger, And so they're always going with this to-do list, and they get there. And so that kind of helps them to make the decision. But it's just a shame that they have to get so far down to that where they feel like it's that or nothing, as opposed to, like you said, you could set aside knowing that that's something that, will help you and sort of focus and make that a priority for yourself. And it doesn't have to be an international holiday for, a long period. It could be something local. It could just be a night out in a hotel, book a night in a hotel by yourself and have a bath. You'd be surprised at the sort of benefits, especially if you're a mum in a busy household, but if you're already traveling, if you're on a beautiful international trip, you could tag a couple of days on at the end for self-care as well, so that you don't come back from a long flight after days of trekking around, checking out all the sites, eating all the food, and get back and go, oh, I don't know how many people I've seen, worked in offices over years and years, and people would come back, how was your holiday? And they go, oh, I need a holiday for my holiday, or I'm exhausted, It's like, well, great, now you've got another 6 months before you're on leave again. What have you brought back to sustain you through that time?
Totally. And that brings me to another thing that's interesting that you just say that, like, what have you got to sustain you through that time? Because people go on these 3-day, 5-day, 1 week, 2 week retreats, and they adopt quite healthy practices while they're away, and they have a eat well, and they have an exercise plan, and they do all of this, so they have a great time, feel really good, feel really rejuvenated, and even possibly have a plan of what to do when they get back, or they're motivated to do something when they get back.
Absolutely.
But I don't know many people, even before they go, that don't know what to do. Most people do know what to do or what they should or could be doing. But that's the doing it part.
Oh.
It's the integrating it so that
Yeah.
it becomes a norm and becomes sustainable.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you see with regard to that? Do you see people living from retreat to retreat and each time needing it because in between the retreats they go back to this unhealthy holiday?